Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there.
It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
Galgorm Castle lies at the heart of one of Northern Ireland's most infamous tales of witchcraft. Some say it's still haunted 350 years after its former master paid the ultimate price.
The story is that he sold his soul to the devil.
Something's playing around.
They believe. The question is, do you?
We'd ask you to come forward and move this glass for us now.
Psychic investigator Andy Matthews is headed for what's said to be the most haunted castle in Northern Ireland.
During my time here in Northern Ireland, I've visited many places and many brilliant locations, but not a castle as yet. And I'm really excited about this because castles are associated with hauntings and ghosts. I'm just hoping that Galgorm Castle lives up to all my expectations.
400 years after this Jacobean fortress was built, its defences are still intact.
Wow.
And not just the visible ones, it seems.
Do I have permission to enter? No. Do I now have permission to enter? Yes. It seems to be an energy barrier that's going across here. The rods are indicating here that I'm not allowed to enter. If I walk along, the rod should react to the field of energy. Bang. Now I'm guessing that there's a barrier that's probably going all around this castle, even around the grounds. Why it's there, I've got no idea, but there's definitely something here. Hello?
Hello.
Christopher.
Yes, Andy. Good to see
Andy
you.
Matthews, hi, how are you? What a fantastic place.
It is, it's magical.
I mean, driving...
Galgorm is one of the oldest continuously inhabited castles in all of Northern Ireland. The current owner, Christopher Brooke, is familiar with the castle's ghostly reputation and the man responsible for it.
It's always been reputed to be haunted, and there was a wonderful story about Dr. Colville. He was an alchemist, and the story was that he sold his soul to the devil for gold and knowledge, and that's how he got the money to build Galgorm, or to continue the building of it. I mean, he was definitely not very popular, and he was called in front of the presbytery in Ballymena to answer charges of dealing in the black arts. Now, that could have been, again, because they didn't like him because he was a royalist, and that was just a way of getting at him.
That's the man.
That's the man himself. That picture's not allowed to be removed from the house, or it's always been a story that tragedy and disaster will befall if his portrait is ever moved from the house.
Despite the eerie legend of Dr. Colville, some maintain that he is not the ghost of Galgorm. According to another former resident, the castle is haunted by a more blithe spirit.
Well, this is my grandmother's room, and so this is where she was woken up and saw the ghost. She thought that it could have been a girl who worked in the house, a maid, or somebody who possibly worked outside, and she wears a shawl, and she wears maid-like working clothes. She was quite happy living with the ghost. The first time the ghost woke her up, she followed the ghost out onto the landing and instinctively knew that the house was on fire. My grandfather had stubbed out his pipe in the rubbish bin, so that had gone up, so the room was on fire. But the second time was to tell her that the horses had got out of where they were in the field down by Tullygarley and were galloping through the middle of Ballymena. So without even checking the field, she got into her car, drove into Ballymena and found the horses.
The final member of the team is on her way. Medium Marion Goodfellow.
I'm no different from anyone else. I wasn't born differently, but I've grown up talking to these people. When I was young, they used to think I'm sure that I was nuts, you know, because I could always find somebody to talk to in spirit.
We're about a mile away from Galgorm Castle, and I'm going to meet Marion here. Now, the reason for this is why we're meeting so far away from the castle is that I'm going to try an experiment with her called psychometry. Now, mediums can sometimes pick up feelings or information from objects associated with the building. And what I've got here is the creme de la creme. I have Galgorm's original key from the 1800s. It's a bit freezing. Oh, darling.
Hello, lovely.
All right, thanks. Oh. I brought you out here for a reason, Maz. I want to try a psychometry test, is that all right?
Yeah, fine.
Cool.
You're always testing me.
I know, I am. I know. OK, well, what I've got... Are you OK to do this now?
Yeah, fine.
Sure?
Fine, yeah, sure.
There.
I mean, the key's old. I feel it's keeping something in rather than keeping anything out.
Go on.
I feel emotional. I feel... I don't want to come out. I don't want to come out. Do you understand what I mean?
I
That
do,
sort
yeah,
of feeling that feels quite dark.
Dark?
Yeah, dark.
Right.
Not nice.
Yeah, go on.
Just feels as if there's a secret, and it's not a good secret. And it's being kept in. It's been kept in there.
That kind of matches what I picked up when I first arrived. My own thoughts and feelings were that the place is surrounded by some kind of field of energy, which kind of protects the place. I may have been a little bit wrong with it being protected. Maybe it's there to keep something in. Oh, there we go, Mary.
What a fabulous place. It's better inside than outside. There's a barrier outside, definite barrier. Once you push through into the inside, it's not quite as bad. When we were standing outside, I saw a young girl walk up. She didn't come through the front door. She went off to the side. So I'm presuming that she was a servant, perhaps lived on in a lodge house or something in the grounds.
What, came up the drive?
Came up the drive, yep, and went scooting off round the corner.
So she wouldn't have come into the house?
No, wouldn't come into this part of the house. I don't know who she is. She seems quite tall, willowy figure.
A name, by any chance?
No, just a sec. Takes me a little while.
OK.
Rosemary. Rosemary, I think her name's Rosemary.
There's a heck of a lot of activity within this building. I've felt it, and bringing Marion in today, it's just, again, clarified that there is something here.
Getting another name. Sounds like Tilly. Oh, Andy, I could fall over.
Yeah.
The energy, so... I'm getting names Charlotte, Anne, Mary, Rose.
Over the centuries, many hundreds of servants have worked at Galgorm. But of all the spirits Marion believes she's encountered here, the most striking is still that of the girl she sensed outside.
Where's the secret? Tell me.
They're saying there's a secret.
Secret. The place has definitely got spirit attachment. We've got a young girl that seems to be floating around aimlessly in the garden for no apparent reason. We don't know who she is. She looks like a servant girl.
Later, Marion takes a walk through the castle grounds with Christopher.
The energy here of the girl, the servant girl, that I saw as I came in towards the house is definitely outside, and she's definitely in here. And she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be here. She's not supposed to be here. I get the feeling like, don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody. So there's, there's undertones here. Perhaps she was in love with one of the stable lads or something like that, I don't know.
This is where the doctor this is a tithe bottom, this is where he used to count all his money.
I haven't seen your doctor at all. I haven't seen him at all. I mean, he's got a lovely portrait hanging in the hall, but I haven't seen him at all. Most of the people I think I've happened upon have been servants.
Andy isn't having much luck contacting the doctor either, but he's not drawing a complete blank.
What I've done when I've walked around this building is pick up images of a woman. I'm going to try and draw what I'm seeing in my mind. You'll see this woman. She's quite an old lady. You're taking mental images that you're picking up and transferring them to paper, really. You're following your own perception of what you're feeling and sensing and seeing, really, in what a medium would call your third eye or your mind's eye. It's one of those things with the paranormal, it's not scientific. But the thing is, if it's there, if it's in the mind, then yeah, I'll try it. I'll try anything. It's not like drawing a picture as you would normally sit down with a pen and paper. You've got to keep your mind completely blank. I mean, I'm drawing this, and when I finish it, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, that's the ghost that haunts Galgorm Castle, because I've got no proof to back that up. I'm just bringing forward what I feel is here. To anybody watching somebody draw pictures of supposed dead people, you know, may think you're a bit around the twist. It's not, because I believe that if there is life after death and energy is still here, the energy of people that once lived here is still here, then why can't they communicate that through to us? It's quite feasible to me. Although she looks rather stern, she's actually very friendly, but there she is. She doesn't look very pretty, bless her.
We do know that a girl who worked for the doctor was arrested in Scotland, and I think it was for stealing, and she was accused of witchcraft. And they said, where did you learn your witchcraft? And she said, from the doctor at Galgorm Castle.
Whether Dr. Colville and the servant girl were involved in witchcraft or not, the paranormal team are taking no chances. For this investigation, they've enlisted the help of Warren Coates, an expert in Wicca, or white magic.
As an investigative team, we are quite scientific in our approach, but with this location, we should have some caution and some guidance. Whether we believe in witchcraft or not, I think it's the right thing to have someone with some knowledge on the subject at hand.
I would say there has definitely been some sort of satanic arts or something down here at some stage. You can feel it in the atmosphere, and especially with the stories of sort of practices sort of like selling your soul to the devil and all like that. There again, it's all come back to a more negative side. So the thing I would say is to everybody be very, very careful when you're walking around here tonight.
Even before the team finish setting up their experiment, a camera records something unusual at the top of the staircase where Dr. Colville's portrait hangs.
Starting our investigation, Roddy, myself and Raymond were going to do an investigation in this bedroom here, and Tony had decided that he'd like to go upstairs to the attic and sit in his own and call out. And just as we were coming up the stairs, I stopped and I said to Tony, are you sure, you know, you're happy going up there on your own? And he said, yeah. And then I walked on a bit and I said, are you sure?
It's just as if there was someone standing there and they just done what you know, they just said what you said. Yeah, they just had to repeat, like, are you sure?
Are you okay going up there on your own?
Yeah.
You sure? And I sort of thought, that must be one of those two. And then I stopped, and Roddy turned to me and said, did you just hear that? And I said, yes. And both of us heard exactly the same thing with our ears.
I didn't jump, it didn't scare me. It was nearly as if there was someone else just standing there.
It didn't scare me either. That's,
and they were repeating,
you know,
the question.
It didn't make me jump or anything like that. Are you okay going up there on your own?
Yeah.
You sure?
It said, are you sure?
Yeah, it was deep.
It was deep, yeah. It was deep. It made me stop for a minute. I thought, is it Tony? No, but it sort of came from this side.
And you heard it too?
Oh, I heard it, definitely heard it. No.
Darren and Mark, we've just heard a male voice.
There's no question about it. Like, I know what I heard, and the great thing about it was picked up on the DVD cam.
The paranormal team continued to record throughout the night. By morning, they have some very unusual evidence to show Andy.
We got one voice coming through. We were just talking back and forth on the radio. Nothing in particular of any significance. And there was a voice coming through that says, don't do that. And I think Tony actually heard it at the time. He heard that there was something, because he actually, after this voice, he asked if anybody said anything on the radio, but it's not coming from the radio. It's coming from the same room that Tony's in. But I'll play it for you now.
Somebody else just comes over the radio and say, okay.
You can hear Tony question it afterwards. Don't do that.
Is that the voice?
Yeah. That's how
Very clear.
That's interesting.
It's interesting that with that one that I'd heard something at the time as well. You know, we've actually picked that up on audio and we've recorded that as well.
It's strange, isn't it? Because in this building alone, we seem to have heard more audibly.
Yep.
Rather than, because before, you know, when we've done this before, we've had to clean it up and it's never usually heard audibly. It's picked it up on the digital recorder or the camcorder or whatever.
You know,
but it's being picked up as we're hearing it.
Yeah. And we, you know, that can be a number of things. We don't know if it's because we're more in tune and we're expecting them now. We don't know if it's because the equipment's getting better or the way we're using the equipment's getting better. And it could be a combination of the three.
Or it could be the building, it's a castle. You know, there's an old saying, if these walls could talk. Maybe in this case they are.
The audio recording wasn't the only unexplained event of the night. While filming in a room near the stairs where the ghostly whisper was recorded, the CCTV captured an equally strange visual phenomenon.
This one actually takes place in the bedroom. You can see Roddy on the right-hand side here. It seems to come across on the left-hand side of the screen and travel up across sort of Roddy's head. It could be something illuminated by possibly the camera. It could be an insect. It travels very slowly, but we'll have a look and see.
Far away.
It almost travels in like an arc.
It's right on
sort of
top
like
of
an
his
arc-like
head.
shape.
Yeah.
Let's
run that again. Is that going past his head or?
It kind of comes up from the bottom of the screen, travels across, and then arcs just up over the top of his head.
It would have been great if it would have went on the other side of Roddy, because then we would have been able to figure out exactly how far away it was.
It seems to have avoided his head, which is quite interesting. Rather than going straight through it, sort of skimmed over the top of him. It's different to some of the orbs I've seen, because it seems to have a black sensor. Looks like a flying donut.
Having identified what they believe to be a focal point of paranormal activity, the team decide it's time for Warren Coates to do what he does best.
It's all to do with nature, so it's all using the different elements now out there to basically to help people. So I'm actually a witch myself, so and it's not what people think it is. You know, it's not sort of sacrificing babies at dawn or anything out there. You know.
The reason we're setting up in this room in particular is because of pretty much what happened last night. I mean, there was the voice whenever Roddy and Julia had been coming upstairs. And it was the voice saying, "Are you sure?" And it was kind of in response to what Julia was saying. So we're getting some activity here, so it might be a good idea that if we're getting communication coming through, to try that here, see if we can follow through with something else. Okay, we ask if there are any spirits in this room, or indeed in this building. We ask that you come forward. We mean you no harm or ill intent. We'd ask you to come forward and move this glass for us now, please.
The practice of Ouija gained popularity in the 1800s. The name is a combination of the French and German words for yes, a response which so far the team are finding hard to elicit.
Push the glass to the person you would like to talk to. If the spirit is using our energy to move the glass, we really do need to have a smooth surface for that, and we had difficulty with the glass moving, so we had to experiment a little.
Okay guys, we're going to bring some salt up to you. We think that if you put some salt on the table, you'll be able to see better if the glass is moving.
If anything, the salt makes things worse. What's needed is a perfectly smooth surface.
Okay, once again, we ask the spirit of the glass to come forward and talk to us. Move the glass.
Okay guys, you need to identify what all the pieces of paper say and you need to point to each one.
Are you stuck here? Please answer yes or no.
Finally, the team are getting somewhere.
Happy enough, we can take that as a yes?
Yeah, I think that was a yes.
I think anything else said.
Is the barrier outside keeping you in here? Yes or no? That's... okay.
Is there an Alexander Colville with us here today? Can you come forward and move this glass for us, please?
Dr. Colville?
After persevering for over 2 hours, the team have a result. But the moment Dr. Colville's name is mentioned, all activity suddenly ceases.
If you don't want to talk to us, Move the glass to know which is here.
Someone who may be able to shed more light on the infamous former master of Galgorm has flown back specially for this investigation. Robert Colville, a direct descendant of the alleged warlock.
The story is that he sold his soul to the devil, provided the devil bought him a boot full of gold. So Alexander nailed his boot over a hole in the floorboards and cut the soul out. And the devil had to leave after a lot of boot filling because he'd run out. And he came back the next day, and Alexander said, all right, this time I accept, but I just want to finish reading this piece of the Bible by the candle that's burning in front of you. The devil reluctantly agreed to this extension of time, and when he did, Alexander shut the Bible on the candle so the devil couldn't get him.
This is the first time you've spent a night in the house, isn't it, Robert?
Yes.
What did you feel last night? Was it kind of a sensation of, wow, I've come home, or did you feel anything untoward in the night? Or
I felt very relaxed, I have to say. There was no sense of brooding presences or nasty atmospheres at all. I slept very well. No, I didn't experience anything strange.
Well, the house likes you then. It's recognised you.
Maybe.
He's come home.
Maybe.
Yeah. Interesting stuff that Marion picked up on when she arrived here. Firstly, she felt that the place inside was very happy, the building's very happy, but outside she felt that there was a kind of a dark, brooding atmosphere. She keeps going on about these secrets.
Some time ago, in Alexander's time, he had an aged relative who was called Captain James Colville, who was living in the house at the same time in conditions of great secrecy. And nobody's quite sure why he was being so secret about this. He was described as being old and bent and wearing a muffled coat with the collar turned up. And he very seldom went out in daylight hours or in public. So he was hiding from something or somebody. There is a James Colville of about that period. This is in about the late 1630s. He was captured and imprisoned in the Tower of London, and he's supposed to have made his escape. But that would, of course, be consistent with somebody hiding in Galgorm and being muffled up.
Perhaps the fugitive James Colville is the secret Marion believes is being protected by the spirits of Galgorm. And yet, in all their time here, there's one presence that she and the rest of the team have failed to discover. The figure at the centre of the castle's ghostly reputation, Dr. Alexander Colville. In a last attempt to draw out the sinister doctor, Marion will position herself in front of his portrait in the hall, monitored by the paranormal team from their base upstairs on the first floor. They'll communicate with each other by radio.
Are you here, Doctor? Could you make a noise?
What's that?
You're making me very cold.
Getting something through. No, I'm getting static.
What's that? Slow out the candle for me, please.
You hearing that? Yeah, I'm hearing it. Yeah. You hearing it? I'm hearing it talking.
Can you make more of that noise, please? Could you blow out the candle for me?
What's that?
Please help me.
What's that?
I don't know if it was loud.
Can you make a loud noise? Use my energy. Snuff out the candle. Andy, can you come down, please?
You're dead.
The energy is freezing. I am absolutely frozen.
Darren, temperature's 13.6. Do you get that? 13.6, over?
Yes, Andy got that over. Andy, I wonder if You think it's a good idea, sorry, if Marion could ask for the temperature drop even further? Over.
I can feel you.
13.6.
Come forward.
5.
I can
4.
feel you. I can feel you all around me.
Steady at 4. 3. 2. 1. 0.
Temperature's definitely here. Just temperature's gone down 2 degrees.
Make it go colder. $11.7.
Want to know if there's anyone else talking down there? Over.
No.
It's not. It's coming through on the radio frequency.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm hearing voices through the headphones here. Over.
Can you give us your name? Can you introduce yourself? Hell is that?
I can confirm it's not us up here. Over.
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there.
It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
Galgorm Castle lies at the heart of one of Northern Ireland's most infamous tales of witchcraft. Some say it's still haunted 350 years after its former master paid the ultimate price.
The story is that he sold his soul to the devil.
Something's banging around.
They believe. The question is, do you?
We'd ask you to come forward and move this glass for us now.
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one. Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there.
It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
Galgorm Castle lies at the heart of one of Northern Ireland's most infamous tales of witchcraft. Some say it's still haunted 350 years after its former master paid the ultimate price.
The story is that he sold his soul to the devil.
Something's banging around.
They believe. The question is, do you?
We'd ask you to come forward and move this glass for us now.
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there.
It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
Galgorm Castle lies at the heart of one of Northern Ireland's most infamous tales of witchcraft.